In money, golf, and jiu-jitsu, the top performers display great risk management. And the way I see it, there are 3 key steps to managing risk effectively. The first is we need to identify the worst-case scenario that we're trying to avoid. In the case of money, if you look at your bank account and the number is 0, you'll probably have to file for bankruptcy, and that would be a worst-case scenario. For golf, that worst-case scenario might be hitting it in the water.
Where'd it go?
It's in the water.
And for jiu-jitsu, that worst-case scenario might be getting submitted, but it doesn't have to be as drastic, and it can be something like you starting on top and ending up on bottom. But after we've identified what we perceive to be the worst-case scenario, the next step is to identify key indicators. Think of these as warning signs that are telling us that we're on the verge of this worst-case scenario happening. So in the case of personal finances, let's say that my living expenses are $3,000 per month for myself and my family, and I want to make sure I have 6 months of spending saved up. And this $18,000 emergency fund is my key indicator letting me know that I'm doing okay. But this month, my car broke down, and it happens to be the same month my cousin's getting married. And of course, during the wedding weekend, we went out to dinner and ordered some sides.
And you ordered all the fucking sides. Tell them about the sides you ordered.
The sides.
Now, I can't afford all this, but we have $18,000 in the emergency fund, so I'll just take a little bit from that. So now it's down from $18,000 to $15,000. And now that our key indicator of an $18,000 emergency fund is no longer in place, the warning signs start to go off. And if we continue down this same path month after month, it's only a matter of time before our bank account hits 0 and that worst case scenario happens. So once the key indicator is no longer in place, we become very conservative. No buying cryptocurrency, no going out to eat, and no BJJ Fanatics instructionals until you get that key indicator back in place. Now, when we're trying to apply this idea of risk management to grappling, let's look at wrestlers shooting in for single legs. And let's say we identify the worst case scenario of us being sprawled on and ending up in bottom of the front headlock. Now, from a single leg situation, there are a lot of variables, and we need to distinguish which of these variables we're willing to sacrifice and which we are not.
It's just a matter of knowing where your body is and where you're willing to sacrifice certain things.
What is 4-time world championship wrestler Kyle Dake not willing to sacrifice when he's attacking a single leg takedown? Is it his head position? Is it his grip on the leg? Or is it something else?
Watch our video next week.
Just kidding, here it is.
Where you're willing to sacrifice certain things. Like, I'm hardly ever going to sacrifice my shoulder position.
So Kyle Dake's key indicator when attacking a single leg is his shoulder position. So if you shoot in for a single leg and your shoulder position starts to get compromised, now the warning lights are going off. And if you continue to attack the single leg with bad shoulder position, the likelihood of the worst case scenario happening increases. So instead of continuing to attack a single leg, you can change your strategy and use it to take an underhook. But if the key indicator is in place and we shoot in on a single leg with great shoulder position, we are now good to proceed to step number 3, and we can be aggressive. As long as your key indicator's in place, be aggressive, finish that single leg, because the likelihood that the worst case scenario happens while your key indicator is in place is extremely low. And when things go bad, they don't really go that bad.
So every time I shoot a single leg, I know that I'm either going to get the single leg or I'm going to end up in an underhook, or I'm just out. You know, I shoot a single leg and they just run away and I miss it, and we're just back on our feet, no harm, no foul.
In the case of our finances, we knew about the wedding, but the car breaking down was a surprise expense. But because we have the key indicator of an emergency fund in place, the scenario's actually not that bad. Like, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. In the world of professional sports, everyone is extremely good. But Tiger Woods was able to perform so consistently that he spent 683 weeks as the world #1 golfer. And he did this not by hitting every shot perfect, but by making sure his bad shots aren't actually that bad.
If I'm able to hit 1 perfect shot per tournament, it would be great. If I happen to hit 2 per tournament, it's usually when I've won by big margins. This is the game of misses. We all know that out here, everyone's good is good, but how good is your bad?
This quote, I think, sums up his approach to golf very beautifully. Pick a conservative line and play to it aggressively. Now, in golf, there are many ways you can approach a given shot and a lot of variables to consider. And when weighing their options, the best golfers in the world have a rule. And that rule is if you hit the same shot 10 times, are you confident that 8 out of those 10 shots will get you a desired result? If you are, then step up to the ball and hit it with confidence.
Hold back. Here it comes. this. Have you seen anything like that?
If you're not 80% confident that you're going to get a desired result, then it's probably best to reassess and pick a more conservative approach. So by now we know our process, right? Step 1, we identify the worst case scenario. And when we're attacking from the back, in my opinion, the worst case scenario is not necessarily them escaping, but us ending up on bottom after they escape. So now we need to identify a key indicator that'll make it very unlikely that the defender will end up on top of us after they escape. Now the battle for top position is a battle for height, and from the back we can use our bottom arm posting on the mat to build height, but we can also use our legs to build height by heisting up. And in order to heist whatever hip we're on, we need that same leg free, as that's the leg that's going to allow us to build height. So when we're attacking from the back, the general advice is to prioritize the bottom hook. But our bottom hook is our heist leg. So if we're trying to prioritize our bottom hook, it can lead to us losing the battle for height. So I'm going to argue that the key indicator that we're looking for when attacking from the back to manage risk is our top hook. So the way I've been attacking from the back recently is I play very defensively if I don't have a top hook. And what this looks like is playing with a reverse seatbelt if I don't have a top hook. And from the overhook side, what this means is my strangle arm is very shallow, which means I don't really have an ability to strangle my partner, but I do have a great ability to build height because I'm already on my elbow. So basically, if I don't have a top hook, I have no ability to build height with my legs. So I need to double down on my ability to build height with my upper body, even if it means I can no longer strangle my partner. But then once I'm able to insert my top hook, now my key indicator is in place. And once my key indicator is in place, I'm now roughly 80% confident that the worst case scenario of them ending up on top is not going to happen. So now I can be very aggressive and switch my seatbelt to a more attacking option. This isn't the best camera angle, but you can see Andrew has just a top hook when he's attacking from the back. And he's very aggressive and threatens a rear naked choke. And when it fails, it's not the end of the world because he's able to build height by posting his elbow on the mat and throwing in a long top hook to pull himself up on top. I know this goes against a lot of what we're traditionally taught, but let me give a few more examples to try and convince you. Having a topside body triangle is generally preferred when attacking from the back. And the idea behind a topside body triangle is you have a long bottom hook and you reinforce it with your top leg. So basically you're doubling down on your bottom hook. And as we talked about, our bottom hook is our heist leg. So when this fails, it can be hard for us to build height, and we can often end up on bottom. So if we're attacking from the back with the goal of managing risk and making sure we end up on top if our attacks fail, a bottom side body triangle may actually be preferred because our key indicator of a top hook is very strong with a bottom side body triangle, and it allows us to make sure we end up on top if our attacks fail. And with a bottom side body triangle, we have great ability to build height with our legs, allowing us to be aggressive with our upper body and attack submissions. When doing a traditional chair sit, we initially throw in our top hook before switching sides, and the basic idea behind it is to prioritize the bottom hook and then work to throw in your top hook. But when the chair sit goes wrong, we don't have a top hook and our opponent may end up on top of us, which would be the worst case scenario coming to light. So instead, we can use something like a modified chair sit, where the idea is instead of prioritizing the bottom hook, we prioritize the top hook. And then we look for ways to insert our bottom hook. Again, I feel like I'm going against the grain with a lot of the stuff I'm saying, so I feel like it's very important for me to reiterate that I'm not saying prioritizing the top hook is the best way to finish from the back, or even to maintain control of the back for as long as possible. But what I am saying is if your goal is to minimize risk when you're attacking from the back and make sure you end up on top if your attacks fail, then I think it makes a lot of sense to prioritize the top hook instead of the bottom hook. I also think it's important for me to clarify that this idea of risk management is extremely important when you're trying to perform consistently at the highest level.
I think the main thing in those changes I've made is I've become more of a consistent player. My bad shots aren't that bad, and my good shots are always going to be pretty good, but it's the bad ones that are the key to shooting good solid numbers.
But if you're training and you're trying to develop new skills, it might not make as much sense to use this type of strategy, and Tiger Woods speaks on this beautifully.
Well, building my game up in the off weeks for, let's say, a major championship, I don't know if it's right to say it or not, but sometimes it's sacrificing a tournament here and there, working on a few things, knowing that the bigger picture, things will pan out. Trying shots that I probably shouldn't try in some events.
I'm in the woods good.
May pay dividends down the road. Sometimes it works out. I end up winning that event, but the bigger picture is, trying to get mind, body, and soul coming together for 4 times a year.
Now in this video, we talked about a single leg and attacking from the back, but I encourage you to go through this process from other positions as well. First, identify the worst case scenario, then pick out the key indicator that makes this worst case scenario unlikely to happen. And if that key indicator is in place, then be aggressive. If you're defending from the back, the worst case scenario would be you getting submitted. And to prevent yourself from getting strangled, you would like to have your primary defensive hand in place, which I would consider to be the key indicator in this situation.
But understand, if you have the inside thumb position with your primary defensive hand relative to your partner's wrist and hand, when he goes to strangle you, you're always going to be safe from here, okay?
And with your key indicator in place, you can now be aggressive with your other arm to try and clear hooks and facilitate your escape.
This now will give you the luxury of knowing that you can use your secondary hand to use a hand assist method to separate your partner's legs.
But as soon as your key indicator is no longer in place, you have to be very conservative until you reestablish that key indicator.
If he strips my grip, obviously, like if he takes his hand on my wrist and strips the grip, now I have to stop what I'm doing, replace the primary hand, and be back into a sound defensive stance.
In guard passing, the key indicator might be controlling your opponent's hands, as Dima speaks on beautifully when he talks about rumble passing. And if you're one of the 1,500 members of the Discord, you know that I've talked about the idea of risk management from this north-south position. And I've added hashtag risk management to the Outlier database. So if you're interested in diving deeper into this concept, this would be a good place to start. And if you're not familiar with the Outlier database, it's a website I made to help you and I study jiu-jitsu more effectively. So if you wanted to study some examples of a modified chair sit, you can do that here. As you can imagine, it makes geeking out and studying jiu-jitsu so much easier. For this use case, nothing comes close to what we're building here, which is why professional coaches are saying it's an absolute must-have for anyone serious about studying the sport at a deeper level. If you're interested, the link is right here.